globe that we called Earth and all the inhabitants that are on there, we have to look at what are they doing with their time. What are we doing with our time? What are we becoming? Okay? Now, there is the miraculous where we can say, you know what? I get it. The light went on and I am making a change in a moment. And that moment, from then on, creates a new reality. I am no way saying that what you are, and you're stuck in that. But I am saying that the power is within you to change that. Let's go to the next one. I always throw my comics in here. We call it ascension, not uploading. Some of us being drug up, okay? I like this one. I find they evolve better under pressure, so throwing down those lightning bolts. And this is a third eye exam. So he's on his meditation mat. More spiritually enlightened or less spiritually enlightened? Let's put the lens, okay? And hopefully we're going to monkey around with these lenses a bit to see if, and you'll understand what enlightenment is. Let's go to the next one. Now, one of my heroes is Nikola Tesla, okay? This person, when Einstein was asked, what is it like to be the smartest man on the planet? His answer was, I don't know, go ask Nikola Tesla. Literally his answer, okay? If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is a constant throughout all creation and everywhere that we exist. Energy, frequency, vibration. When you walk into a room where people have been gossiping about someone, do you feel a shift in the energy? Yeah. Do you feel a shift in vibration? Yeah. You touch some people. Okay. How are they resonating? You feel that in them. Whoa. You know, what's going on here? Because that is one of those things that though we all perceive it, we all rely on it, we are very slow to admit that it is an essential portion of our sensory equipment that we have here to function in this dimension. So that energy, that vibration and frequency are very important, and that's going to continue throughout this theme of ascension and dimensional shift. So let's go to the next one. So vibration and frequency change the shape of matter. Now this is salt on metal plates exposed to frequencies. So we can see that 100 hertz creates a fairly simple but yet beautiful form. Move that up to 1,000 hertz, the form shifts. Move it up to 10,000 hertz, the complexity continues. It multiplies. Now we're going to talk about that. You're going to see this again when we talk about ascension and understanding dimensional shift. So in essence, we could say first dimension, second dimension, or we'll go with third dimension, fifth dimension. It's kind of what it looks like in complexity, in depth. But remember, this is being portrayed on a one-dimensional plate. So when you try to add frequency to a single-dimensional object, it wants to do more. Okay, but if it's on the flat surface, it's just going to relate it as a flat image. Nonetheless, this helps us to understand that frequency makes a difference, and frequency is not chaos. Okay? When we increase that higher frequency, look at the complexity of that pattern, and it holds. It doesn't come and go, it stays there. Let's go to the next one, Tony. And I am so grateful for Tony being there. Thank you, Tony. I love you. Now, okay, David R. Hawkins, he's an MD and a PhD. Through the skill of kinesiology or muscle testing, was able to validate the resonance of words. Now, we talked about frequency, or I should say the resonance of emotion. When we are creating, we're always using emotion. Okay? Think about that. If we're creating, we're trying to create more abundance, more money, that is actually propelled out of an emotion of lack. Because you're intimating, I don't have, therefore I have to create. And the thing is, the key in creation is understanding and working in the marvel of what is, and then reflecting that out in gratitude. And then you allow for more abundance because you're already stepping and operating from abundance. So when we look at some of the base things, now I want you to think about the impact of religion, because a lot of what religion has done is to detune us. Okay? We are, in essence, those 4-year-olds that have been handed the keys to a Ferrari, and we have no idea what to do with it. But people are easier to control if they are in a sense of shame and humiliation. You sinned, you're not good enough. Oh, you're one of them. Categorization, duality, there's good and bad, heaven and hell. All that stuff is anchored in this. Guilt. Okay, how many ex-Catholics or Catholics we have here, okay? All right? Ever felt guilty? Friday, confession. Okay? All right? I'm guilty. But look at this. That resonates at the 30s on this scale of enlightenment being 700 to 1,000. Okay? So, if you look at all the things, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, which we're operating in ego, those things all score lower than 200. All right? That's what we talk about with energy and vibration. So when you go and you touch the hand of a person who's in grief, you are going to feel it. Especially if you're operating from a place of acceptance and compassion. And you can feel that. Now, don't be afraid to express that sentiment to them, because what you're doing is you're raising them up. We'll see an example with tuning forks here in a minute. But the cool thing is that all of this is choice. All of this energy, these are states of the human condition. Now, when we're talking about living in the higher vibration, there's no luck that these are put in this color. They weren't chosen. That red's on the bottom and the higher levels of the violets are on top. That actually corresponds to the light spectrum. And the visible light that we can behold is pretty much courage and pride, that little tiny section in the middle. One thing that's important, though, and that's that there's basically two sentiments which everything is anchored off of, and they are love and fear. Okay? Everything is a form of fear below. And think about it. When we're being prideful, that's anchored in that fear of not enough. And so I will overcompensate for that and put that as a sense of pride. I'm going to puff myself up a bit. Okay? At the same time, courage, we've absolved ourselves of fear and we can take action. Every hero, every Medal of Honor recipient that said, oh yeah, I was scared. I was scared to death. Bullets were flying everywhere, and I went up and I did it anyway because I loved my fellow soldiers more than I loved my own life. And they were getting hurt, and so I had to do something. So fear is there, and fear is part of the human condition. There is a lot, and I challenge you to become aware of the influences around you that help you to cultivate fear. And they put it in our face. Be afraid. How do our kids feel in school right now? Afraid. Okay? And every time they start to heal, something else happens to make them afraid again. Our option is to create empowerment. Okay? My stepdaughter Emma was very concerned with what's going to happen and another shooting, and was going into fear. And it's like, okay, well, if that happens, what are you going to do? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you should be. Let's talk about how you respond. I taught her about the rule that we use for being exposed to radiation, that we use time, distance, and shielding. I said, just remember those three things. The quicker the longer or time that you're exposed to the threat, the more likely you are to get hurt. So that means get out of there. distance. You get out of the building, you keep running. You put distance between you and what that thing is that's happening. And shielding, it's better to hide behind a wall than to hide under a desk. Okay? Those kind of things. And it's empowerment. And we try to extinguish the fear. Is it going to be there? Yeah. That's part of the human condition. We have a lot of cell memory invested in fear and keeping ourselves alive. And so when we understand that, we're able to manage it and allow ourselves to live in the higher resonance. Now, I invite you to think about and take an assessment in your personal consciousness. Where do you spend a lot of your time? Examine your languaging. What do you talk about? What are the things that you want to hear more of? Because a lot of times, if we don't have enough fear, we're kind of fear junkies, we'll create more fear, more things to be afraid of. Because it's where we're comfortable. Ascension, that place, that fifth dimension, fourth dimension, aren't places of fear. Okay, when you talk about people who've had near-death experiences, they don't say, oh, I left my body and I was immediately afraid. They're like, wow, I didn't have a care in the world. I felt really good. I could fly. And then I went to light. And I got over there and I met everybody. It was a great time. I didn't want to come back. And it was wonderful. It was beautiful. Love. No fear. Because that's a condition for this third dimensional plane. And like I said, it's like the air. We breathe it in. But we also breathe in a lot of other stuff with the air we breathe. Most people don't know the majority of the air we breathe is nitrogen. We can't use it. We don't. We need the oxygen. So fear is kind of like that nitrogen. Okay, it's in and out, but we release it and we let it go. We don't give it root. Okay, so take a look at these, and this is something that's very important because this is a great example of where we're resonating, where we're vibrating right now within us. And that resonance impacts everything. Okay, and so when we're talking about ascension, if you look at this chart, the numbers ascend. So it's like this great mystery. You're just raising vibration, raising light. Excuse me. Let's go to the next one, Tony. So there's a lot of data out there, and I invite you. This is really a busy thing. I don't want you to worry too much on trying to capture it. But I want you to look at vitality, tone, and attitude scale, which is very similar to Dr. Hawkins' scale, okay? But basically, it's emotion, vibration, thoughts, motivation. And so when we look at those, the emotions that we're operating off of create thoughts that create vibration. And that's pretty much the whole point here. So, you know, if you have that serenity and peace, meta-ness, well-being, you know, you're thinking globally, connected to everything, loving everyone. And so this is another illustration of kind of how ascension works. Is there's a scripture that says that when I was a child, I played with childish things. And as I became an adult, I put away childish things and embraced the ways of the adult. Okay? And this is what we're talking about, and putting away the childish things and moving more to those higher states of existence. How are we going to change our planet with the reality, carrying around the reality or the belief system that created it? Einstein said you have to get out of that mindset to create a new possibility. And that's what we're talking about here, is creating a new possibility. Let's go to the next one. So, to help you understand dimensions, here's a simple illustration. One dimension, okay? Length. That could be a pyramid. It could be a flat pyramid, a flat circle, a flat square, a flat tetrahedron. Doesn't matter, because all it is expressed in is length. So then we have length and height in the two-dimensional drawing. That's our consciousness. They're, again, evolving, very, very basic. Okay, I need food. Okay, kind of that base needs. Go to third dimensional, length, width, and height. Okay? Now we have a little bit of depth to us. Okay? This is where we start asking the question, what am I? Okay? What's my purpose in life? What am I doing here? Who was that just said that? Okay? Then we move to fourth dimension. Fourth dimension, length, width, height, inner dimensions. From here, we start building Metatron's cube. Okay? The tree of life. All of those sacred images that are representations of higher dimensional thinking. Fifth dimension, we can go inwardly for infinity, and we can connect that square to all other squares that exist. And guess what? Fifth dimension isn't the end of things. All right? That's just what we're talking about here. You start going to sixth and, more singularity. And it's interesting because as you go around this circle or this spiral, there are times in that spiral where you can't tell the beginning from the end. Oh, interesting. How does Source refer to self? I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And that's you. So it's not something that applies to just outside yourself. Okay, next one. Everybody good with that so far? Okay, I know we're covering a lot of stuff. So, light is knowledge. That's why we call it enlightenment. All right? And it's kind of funny because people will spend their whole life pursuing enlightenment, not understanding it's not a destination, it's a condition. So, remember we talked about the light, that the colors of the prism. Right here in this middle part, those wavelengths are basically the ones that we can perceive. All of these, we can't. All of these, we can't. So, when somebody perceives an angelic being, somebody moving around, and they're vibrating at a high resonance, they walk through the wall because it was matter, and matter, obviously, scientists can't understand. Why can't we walk through stuff? Because there's basically between our molecules, the distance between here and Colorado Springs for 2 ping pong balls. Why doesn't that work? Well, there's stuff that holds things together. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So in other words, if you have a molecule here about this size and the molecule here, the actual distance between our stuff that we're made of would be like putting one here and putting one in Colorado Springs. They're far apart. There's more. That's why when scientists talk about and physicists talk about the Big Bang, they said all the matter in the whole universe, if it was all compressed together so there was no space between it, would fit in an area the size of a pea. And it doesn't fit into our brains. What? That's because there's that much energy. What's in between them? Energy. Okay? And that energy is what links all of us together in that oneness. What I do to you, I do to myself. Okay? So, all of this light that we can't perceive becomes perceptible as we start changing our vibration. Some people call it activating their third eye. Here, we have this sensory place. We have this amazing thing, okay, called the pineal gland in our brains. It's interesting. It's about the size of pea. Okay, so we take that kind of perception, and that is our connector to the infinite. It's our kind of like our microchip. Okay, it's this tiny little phone that allows us to connect to all that is. And it can perceive a broader range. But if we live in fear, we're creating channels that limit its performance. But it's all there. It's a matter of where your consciousness and your mind is operating. Okay, let's go to the next one, Tony. So, love is vibration. So we talked about light, okay? And that light is also knowledge. So when we talk about light and enlightenment descending from heaven, that's a form of they're again in that light spectrum of knowledge. When we talk about love, we're talking about vibration. This is a difference in the steel plate images of going from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. Tiny little difference. Okay? Tiny incremental difference is huge. So when we're talking about ascension, in essence what we're talking about is raising your love energy. Okay? Raising your love energy. Our entire biological system, the brain and the earth itself, work on the same frequencies. Nikola Tesla. That's that divine connectedness to everything. And we're not just talking about this planet. We're talking about our universe. Okay? Everything goes through that. Next one, Tony. So to ascend is to raise your vibration and frequency. You can't do it. You have to be it. All right? That's the trick. When you come to church every Sunday and you repeat the same thing every week, going to go get my dose of get up and go. Okay? I'm going to get inspired. And then you fall back down asleep. Okay? You're trying to do it. This is all about transformation and being it. What are you being? Who are you being? It's that beingness that matters. Now, there's philosophers that pose the question, well, aren't we all, in essence, frauds? That we're faking our way through life. I'm trying to be that. I know I'm this little insignificant thing and I'm trying to be something. I'm trying to flip that and say, you're this amazing, giant, huge thing and you just got to remember it. Okay? You just got to remember it. So, you send out an energetic field that affects the world around you. With that heart energy, you have the power to change your world. How do we change it? We activate others so that they change theirs as well. If I have a tuning fork, A, and I hit it, boom. This one, though nobody touches it, it's in proximity to that tuning fork, will start to vibrate at the same rate. Guess what? Your skeleton structure is metallic. Okay? Calcium is a metal. All right? People think, well, calcium, white bone, it's actually a metal. And that metallic frame that you have is your resonance tool. You ever heard the phrase, I felt it in my bones? Knew it was going to happen. Just kind of felt it in my bones. Why do you think people say stuff like that? Because it's an acknowledgement that says something that is. Kind of funny. But you have this antenna, this resonance. So what I'm inviting you to do is think about where you're vibrating every moment of every day. Because we have a world to wake up who are asleep. Okay? For me, when I go places, I am consciously radiating love and light. And there are people who are tipping the scale. They're at that 200 measurement. They walk by and they start to resonate in that love and light place. Wow! Think about that. Breathe that in. That is who we are. And you have that power to do that. Next one, Tony. So, we're also getting some help. Now, I'm not going to go into the extraterrestrial discussion, although that's really a fun one. Okay? But I am going to say that there are angelics and other interdimensional beings that are trying to help us with this ascension process. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been at this for hundreds of thousands of years.
Come on.
Jeez. We have. And you know, we get excited because one of us did it 2,000 years ago. And we're trying to take credit for that somehow. Okay? Think about it. All the tools, all the knowledge you have at your fingertips right now. Imagine this conversation and you listening to it 5 years ago. You don't think some work is being done with you now, every day? Guarantee it is. It's not an accident you're sitting in this room. Okay? It's not. You all are light workers, amazing, powerful people. Amazing. All right? Do not think that you have to do anything special to prepare for this monumental change. There again, this new possibility. What is needed is trust and a willingness to open to a new reality, the reality of oneness, called the singularity. Everything is the same thing. And we can't see it from the third dimension. That's the kicker. That's why we keep getting stuck. And that's why when we have the person that says, hey, you know what? I think we're all one. I think it's all the same stuff. Ah, witch, burn them. We throw them on fire. There's no wonder, right? That here we are stuck because it's like, I don't want to get burned up. But I still think that we're kind of all one. Keep it to yourself. All right? And then, so what do? We form secret societies, and we form all these little cults and cloisters and all these different little things because we want to hang on to our little part of the truth. But in reality, it's all the same thing. And hopefully I'm helping to demystify some of this understanding so that as you go about in your daily lives, you understand the grandeur with which or within which you exist. Because it's amazing. All right, so I have these here. These are gamma radiation pulses that have come from outer space that have hit our planet. And we are afraid of gamma radiation. That's what an X-ray is. It goes right through us. It goes right through everything. But that is also what can help to activate that DNA that we have, this thing called DNA. We're going to go into that conversation here in a bit. So we're getting these external influences that also help. That there again, gamma radiation in the form of light. You remember where it was in the light spectrum? Way over to the left, very high resonance, high frequency. And this is getting through space, traveling millions upon millions of miles at this specific time and place. And we get exposed to it. And we wonder why today is different than yesterday. Okay? Yeah, question?
How long has that been going on?
That's been going on for a long time. It's been going on with increased frequency. These are all taken from the Hubble spacecraft from different star locations by their numbers that have been emitting gamma radiation to us.
Is that Maya prediction or something?
No, these are just things that are going on. And one thing to be mindful of is that, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on right now. You know, you can throw a rock and hit a channel. Okay? There's channels everywhere. Now think about that. So is it that channeling is in vogue, or is it that all of a sudden there are more channels? Okay? And that there's more. It's being activated. So all these, what we would term spiritual gifts, are actually activations that are going on around the planet. You know, and you want to, I mean, take a deep dive, get on YouTube, and just put in the word channels. Okay, now what I'd love to see, though, is that there are a lot of 20-somethings that are amazing. Absolutely on fire, amazing. And their work, they come here and they're like, you know what, I'm using this social media as a platform to help people to understand and that there's so much more, and ooh, we've all been lied to, and what you think is a reality isn't, and what it is completely different than what you thought, and all this stuff. But I invite you that when you do that you listen with your heart space, because that's your truth detector. Okay, and there's some I'm listening to. I listen about 5 seconds go, nope, doesn't resonate. Bonk. Now, that might not mean that they're wrong. It just doesn't resonate with where I am. Okay? Let's go next one, Tony. So, here's 12 symptoms of spiritual awakening. And what I'd like you to do, this is an interactive thing, is I'd like you to, we're going to take about 2 minutes. I want you to, we'll go through these real quick, but I want you to have discussions about, hey, has this been happening to me? I thought something was wrong with me. I went to the doctor and they couldn't find anything. They shot me with some gamma radiation, took an x-ray. Okay? So here's real quick, an increased tendency to let things happen rather than make them happen. Frequent attacks of smiling for no apparent reason. Feelings of being connected with others in nature. Feelings of overwhelming episodes of appreciation. Didn't used to have that, now we do. A tendency to think and act spontaneously rather than from fears based on past experience. An unmistakable ability to enjoy each moment, a loss of ability to worry, a loss of interest in conflict, a loss of interest in interpreting the actions of others, a loss of interest in judging others, a loss of interest in judging self, gaining the ability to love without expecting anything. Okay? These are true symptoms. Okay? And when we talk about loss of interest, there was a time in your existing where it was interesting. It was. And where did that go? What happened? What shifted? So let's have a quick, just take a minute, chat with the people around you, see about some of these things if they've happened to you. I think you'll be surprised to find out that everyone has probably been affected. Okay, so let's do that. I wish I had some game music done, but we're not.
We would do the blessing for the offertory.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
All right, sure. Hopefully I'm not freaking you guys out. Okay, let's resume. So what do you think? Do you think that you're an anomaly, or do you think that some of these things have been happening to you? We're on our road to ascension, and that energy grid is shifting. And so when this is happening, these are some of the physical manifestations that take place. Okay? So this also shows you that when energy shifts, the human condition responds to it. Sometimes unconsciously. Okay, because we have that different resonance. It would be kind of like in this room if we were playing a game where we didn't want to bump into each other, but all the lights were off. And so we have to be very careful, and we have to move very slow. We're in kind of a fear place. But then as we start raising the light vibration up, now we can see each other a little bit, and we can move faster. And so in that's what happens with resonance. Next one, Tony, thank you. So here's another one, common symptoms of spiritual awakening. Heightened sensitivity to your physical senses. This is going to happen, all right? I understand that it's very cold in here. Apparently, right here is a bubble of warm. I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay? Desire to form meaningful relationships. And this is important. I've seen people that are walking away from long relationships that literally have not been fulfilling. It has been obligation. And we say, wow, I've been lying to myself. And so I'm changing. This does no longer work for me. Okay? Visions and premonitions that come true. Your psychic abilities are being activated. And we're going to talk about why in a minute. Change in sleeping patterns. Anybody here having weird sleeping patterns? Okay, yeah. Anybody waking up smarter than you went to sleep? Really, put your hand up if you have. Okay. You know stuff and you don't know how you know it. Okay? This is that ascension happening. All right? See, the thing is, when you're operating in third dimension, you're operating in brain. When you're operating in fourth, fifth dimension, that's a connection with heart-brain. Remember when I gave that talk a couple months ago, talked about that heart-brain connection. Your brain, scientists are barely discovering now that there are actually brain-type cells in our heart. See, our heart doesn't need to do all the connect the dots and, you know, what's going to happen, all that logic. It's yes, no. Yes, no. Okay, very fast. I'm gonna throw my loving wife under the bus here for a second. And so, Rhonda loves doing brain games. Okay, loves doing these brain games, and she's on there doing brain games, and was hitting this plateau where she's like, man, I just can't get past this point. And I said, have you tried just feeling the answer, not thinking about the answer, just feeling it? Surrender. So she tries it. She is scoring higher than 97, 98% of all the other people using their brain game. That brain game. Okay, yeah, the sunburned lady up here in the front. Okay. That is what we're talking about. Knowing. You see, you can have a logical mathematical sequence that your brain will spin and spin and spin on, but your heart already knows the answer. What comes in next? So there's knowing without having to have the encyclopedia. There just is. Third dimensional construct says, I need to find the information there because it's not within me. But you don't realize in singularity, you are the information. Okay? Have fun. All right? Recurring or vivid dreams. Okay, we're doing some amazing stuff in our dreams. Inability to handle negativity. Turn the TV. Anybody change their viewing habits for TV? Because it's just, yeah, see? And there was a time we lived for that stuff. This is what I'm talking about. We're building evidence to show what's going on. Change in diet, okay? Some things, all right? There's a lot of people who say, you know, with certain dimensions, you have to give up certain stuff. Remember that we drag constructs into everything we go. Follow your heart. Follow your heart into what vibrates, resonates with you. Tingling sensations in the body, urge to adopt spiritual practices. Okay? Spiritual practice is basically being who we are. It's not something to do over there. It's allowing who you are to exist. Okay, let's go on the next one, Tony. So we rise it to a new possibility, our consciousness. This shows us unfolding and becoming light beings. We have all of our chakras that are activated, more light. Now, this picture here is very complicated, but basically it's a vision of the fifth dimension that has tried to be explored. When we talk about ascension, that's living in unity. Okay, we're evolving, we embrace that evolution, love, singularity, prosperity. These are just givens. It's like, yeah, this is just what is, everybody's. Okay? Acceleration, diversity, wholeness, integrity, change, peace, spirituality. That's our core of who we are. When we think that way, what happens? We have a global mind heart, open source information and co-creation, holographic engineering and computing. We're already starting to pull some of that apart now. Environmental and societal remediation. We understand our planet is a living thing. We're part of that. The energy that we give to it can help it to transition. Spiritually integrated living models, harmonized internal and external technologies. Okay, the I am embodiment, because that's what you're creating. So in fifth dimensional thinking, and this is part of the challenge, is that you're only activated to what you can comprehend and be responsible for. And what you're responsible for is shown by your action and what you do. Okay? Real-time imagination manifestation. All right? Think about right now, if stuff you imagined all of a sudden showed up. So that's why it's happening in baby steps. Because over there, it happens in real time. Which then when you go, okay, so I'm over there in fifth dimension, I want a steak dinner. What are they going to do? Well, you create one. But it didn't involve going and killing a cow to do it. Okay, different way of thinking. Okay, galactic civilization and interstellar sciences. There's lots of other folks out there that have ascended, that have gone to other dimensions, that want to help us get there. Because it's fun. But guess what? Third dimension, we are dangerous as hell. Would you invite us to your party? Okay, if you had a place that existed like this, in the mentalities that we are now, that we're seeing all over the planet, well, yeah, I'll go to your party. Can I bring my gun? What? Okay. Eco-villages and ascension cities of light, sustainable energy and sacred artistry. Sacred artistry, yeah, images that we see do make a difference. Remembrance, research, and holistic education. Think about that. What an amazing place. Is there room for it with how we think right now? No. Where does that transformation happen? Within. Okay? So can you say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to clean up my act. I'll clean it up when I get there. Does that work? No. That's why, Yeshua was trying to tell us, as you think, so are you. As a man or woman thinketh, so is he, she. Okay? It's all about what you think. Next one, Tony. So, now we're going to talk about DNA activation, because this is a big part of it. A lot of science I'm throwing at you here, okay? These are DNA deactivation or activation symptoms. You have our simple DNA ladder, all right? And our human genome shows that that's what we think is valuable, that little light-colored slide. That's the protein synthesis DNA that we need. And the rest of it, it's junk. It's just a mistake. Think about that in the eternity and the universe of perfection and unity. Oh, yeah, we just threw all that other stuff in there and we didn't know what to do with it. So it's all there. No. What you have in you is all the DNA to function in the capacity that we would consider, and I'm just using it as a vernacular, as gods. Complete control over matter, mass, energy, light, knowledge, understanding. It's that Ferrari, and we're the 4-year-old. Okay? And so we're stumbling around, and we like to draw on the Ferrari with our crayons. Okay? But in reality, we have the potential to connect to everything that is. Let me give you an example. If I were to take a little snip of you, just, a little piece of your living DNA, and I were to throw it in one of these cool little boxes that keeps it nice and cold and ship it to the other side of the planet. And over there on the other side of the planet, scientists attach electrodes to that little piece of DNA, and then on this side of the planet, I pull out a cattle prod and I shock you. Guess what happens to that DNA instantly on the other side of the planet? Yes, it responds. No issue of time, no issue of distance, no issue of space. All of those are taken out of the equation. This simple little brainless DNA in your body found itself on the other side of the planet at that exact moment. Don't think you've been dumbed down a little bit? Why? Well, that's a lot of power. Look at what we've done with power in the third dimension. Not real proud of it. So, there has always been, a way to activate that DNA. We have seen it in people that are called swamis or masters that can levitate, they defy gravity, they heal, they move objects, set things on fire, because their DNA is activated. So, would you want the asleep part of the planet suddenly having their DNA activated? Don't think so. Okay? Because it has to be activated in a true sequence. That's the beautiful majesty of it. The way the DNA is activated is through love and through compassion. You know, they realize is that they've discovered that our cells have the ability to rejuvenate themselves at an alarming rate. Basically, perpetual youth. And guess what activates that? The act of compassion. The act of compassion. What's compassion motivated by? Love. Compassion is love in action. Okay? A lot of us like to love people from our chair, but getting up and doing something, it's kind of hard. So that's that compassion in action. Okay? So we go from that simple, normal DNA. I showed what the mutated is, because there have been genetic mutations that have actually resulted in higher capacity for human beings. Okay? One happened about 150,000 years ago. And that's a whole other conversation. But when we're talking about 12-strand, okay, we're talking about multidimensional DNA that we can't see. That's talking about being connected to the ether, all directions around us. That's able to see things that we can't see, perceive things we can't perceive, but we have the wisdom and the understanding to embrace it. So if you want to activate your DNA, because people go, oh, I want active DNA. Well, you got to take the course. And what is the course? Well, you got to live in love. You got to live in light. You got to be love. You got to be light. You got to be compassion. You got to be service to others. Okay? You have to be the real deal. So it's not something that you're doing, it's something you're being. That's how you do it. Let's go next one. So how do we do it? We embrace the I am. And you've heard me talk about this before. I am is so powerful. I am love. I am loved. I am compassion. I am abundant. I am prosperous. I am grateful. And what happens is your reality shifts. Okay, in that I am. When we say, I am so tired. Okay, give you lots of reasons to be tired. Oh, let's give you this and that. It creates. I am is the most powerful creative statement that we have to use in our hands. So I invite you to embrace the I am philosophy. Plug in whatever you would like as the outcome, and it will manifest. Next one, Tony. So, as you believe, so shall, excuse me, so shall it be done unto you. You remember Reverend Julie gave an amazing talk about how, you take this little worm that's crawling along, it goes and creates this little chrysalis that it gets in there, and then it hangs from a leaf, and we as kids go and grab them because we want to find the little butterfly inside, and we crack it open, and this slime falls out. It's not a butterfly, and it's not a worm. Well, it's interesting because in that destructive process, those cells have something that they got to do. There's all this confusion, but there's these amazing cells called imaginal cells. And imaginal cells look and think about a new possibility, the idea of a butterfly. So in that chaos, the idea of a butterfly, which is why they call them imaginal cells, they start marshaling the other slime cells to say, hey, you can be slime or you can be a butterfly. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be slime on the sidewalk. I'd rather be flying over everything. So let's line up. And they start lining up. And then they get to the point where there's enough strength in that butterfly. Now remember, all these wings are compressed and they're all tightened down. It's tight in that little chrysalis. And then they start to develop the strength to break it open. What do we as human beings do? Oh, let me help you. Here's the thing about ascension. You cannot help anybody else to ascend. It's your job, nobody else's. Okay? You know, when you're on the plane and the mask falls down, they tell you, put it on before you put it on the baby. Okay? Moms are like, no, it's my baby. But you're not, the baby's never going to get oxygen if you're unconscious. Okay? You can only do it for yourself. So when we try to save the little butterfly opening up the chrysalis, it gets out and it falls over and dies. Why? Because the resistance is what gives it the strength to unfurl those beautiful wings and fly. Without the resistance, it can't do it. We've had millennia of resistance, and now we have the opportunity to fly. This conversation has been part of your activation. You have the tools. Now it's up to you. What are you going to do with them? Next one, please. So this isn't something I'm making up, and it's not something that any religious bent has access or sole access to. Okay? Swami Vivekananda said, all the power is within you. You can do anything and everything. Believe in that. Don't believe that you are weak. Stand up and express the divinity within you. Leo Tolstoy, okay? Who would have thought? The kingdom of God is within you, one of his big statements. Okay, it's in the Bible. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Everything's mine. Nobody talk about that. Okay? Now, here's an interesting one. This is an ancient Egyptian writing that says, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever shall know himself shall find it. Yeshua said, the kingdom of God is within you. Don't think there's a great singularity. Don't think that this messaging has been trying to get through for millennia, and we keep wadding it up and throwing it away. Why? Because there's institutions that keep us at that lower vibration level. Okay? Yes, they're talking about you. The kingdom of heaven is within you and me and them. Okay? We are that light of the world, if you choose to embrace it. Let's go to the next one. So, this final one is, if you come away with anything, all this science, all this stuff, and DNA, and light, and frequencies, and everything, understand that it all comes down to that. Okay? The scripture in the Bible says God is love. That is true. And so are you. Love is the key. If you allow and surrender yourself to love, the light will flow. When the light flows, the frequency will rise. That simple. So you just have one thing to do. And it's interesting because, you know, when you think about great things that have been said in the scriptures, it's love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? And love God. I would surmise that that might be, in an accurate translation, it might be love God and God within you, because it starts with you. Any questions? Everybody got every bit of this? Okay. All right. Well, and that's our last one. I don't think we have any more after that. So I invite you to be that light now. You know, when Yeshua taught that the blind leading the blind, they all fall into a ditch. You have to be awake. You have to have your light on. Okay? You have the power. It's you. Okay. Let's pray. What a day. What an amazing blessing, spirit in this room. Divine energy and love flowing in and through every one of us. Divine light, love, vibration, frequency. It's all good, and it's all God, and it's all us. Amazing, wonderful. I know and I see this blessing. I see this ability in everyone here now, ever to be. Wow. And as we look at the possibility of higher dimensional living, let our minds be locked on that. Because I know that as a man or woman thinketh, so are they. Let us be love and light and high frequency. Because I know that that's what it is, and that is a singular and only truth, that we are one, not only with each other, but with the divine. It is blessed, it is good, and it is God in all of us. We claim it, we know it, and together we say, and so it is.